Hello, welcome back to the Villa View, proudly backed by Ladbrokes for another video. Now, the season's over, so it's time to mull and digest every single player in the team that's played a game this season. Today, we're going to be talking about our goalkeepers. So, Dan, first of all, goalkeepers. Pierluigi Gollini signed in the summer for £2.5 million from Hellas Verona. What would you make of his time at Villa?
I miss him. I liked him. I thought he was a good goalkeeper. I think he had maybe a little bit of a possibility of a mistake in him. I think the two things that have gone down as mistakes against him were perhaps very unfortunate. I don't think that would happen to him 9 times out of 10. I think he was guilty of one thing. He was guilty of being very unlucky. I think he was a good goalkeeper. He had some good potential. I think he made saves that kept us in games. I remember the Newcastle game at home in particular, where he made some key saves at key points. I think he perhaps wasn't as solid as Johnston in some ways, but in other ways I think he made more saves than Johnston. I liked him, but obviously I think his future is pretty much, he's not going to be with Villa ever again. I think he maybe let himself down with the goalkeeping coach situation, having wanted an Italian goalkeeping coach with him at all times, but I liked him, as everyone knows.
I think in hindsight I agree with you. I was never against Gollini leaving, but I was always welcoming to the idea of another goalkeeper coming in, as we'll talk about later. But for me, there was development there. We saw it quite clearly. There was a few errors in there, but then we're seeing a few errors now. So for me, in hindsight, it was perhaps the wrong call to let him go, but then we don't know this full story of the whole Italian goalkeeping coach, which seems bizarre to me considering Gollini speaks English.
Well, yeah, he pretty much had a Manchester twang, if I can remember his voice correctly.
For me, he was okay though. As you say, he made some important saves in games that he was playing in. The likes of the games against, I think, Wolves, he made a few decent saves as well. Definitely against Birmingham City, he had a decent game, and then obviously against Newcastle as well, game that you touched on there. There was room for development there, definitely, but for me, I don't think he deserved to be shipped out on loan for 18 months.
Italian goalkeepers and defenders are notoriously very, very good, and he was playing for the Italy under-21s, or he has played for the Italy under-21s, and I do think at some point, I'm going to stick my neck on the line. I've not done well with predictions in the past, but I do think at some point you'll see him in an Italian squad. So I think long term it's probably a mistake, but I'd wish him well in his career. It didn't work out, but yeah, a shame.
I think it is a big shame for him because he did okay, as I've touched on before, and just in general though, for a goalkeeper, I don't think you should judge them that early. I know in the Sam Johnstone video when we signed him, I was quite happy to see Sam Johnstone come, but it was on the retrospective that I didn't think Gollini would be leaving at the time. And I certainly didn't feel that Gollini should have been sort of shipped out the way he was. And I thought he was mistreated perhaps. But as I say, we don't know the full situation with Gollini. But sadly, as you touched on there, I don't think we'll be seeing him again in the Villa shirt. Next goalkeeper, Mark Bunn. Goalkeeper that's come in a few times this season. And I know what you think of him, Dan. You think he's literally a second-rate goalkeeper that is for the reserves and as a backup.
I don't think he's second rate, because obviously you don't play at the top few levels for as long as he has, unless you do have something about him. But I don't see that he would ever be a number one anywhere. To be fair, to give him credit, I can think of a couple of games off the top of my head. QPR away when he first came in, and Burton at home where he made a massive save at the end of the game. He had some good moments when he did play, but like you could say about all the goalkeepers we've had this season, you just do always feel he's got an error in him, and I don't think he's as commanding as he should be for a goalkeeper of his age. I don't think he's got the stature of a stereotypical goalkeeper either. But to be honest, he would defend himself and say his job was to be a number 2 goalkeeper this season, and he's done that job. And when he's come in, he hasn't let us down massively. So in his defence, he did okay. I just don't see him as a long-term solution for a number 1 or a number 2, because he's never going to push a number 1 goalkeeper hard enough, in my opinion.
Yeah, I didn't find him commanding enough in the box in particular. I don't think he commanded that box all well. And if you can't command your area, then you've got issues.
I think something that's in his favour with being a squad player at Villa, I think he's very popular in the dressing room. You see all the videos on the official club's channels, and all the players seem to mention him. They seem to like him. He seems to be well liked. So he might be good around the dressing room and do that. He hasn't let us down. I think that, being fair to him, he has not let us down this season. But long term, he's never going to be a number 1 at Aston Villa. Next
goalkeeper, Sam Johnstone, come on loan. You were totally against him. Yet, in the Championship, correct me if I'm wrong here, but he's had more clean sheets this half of the year than any other goalkeeper in the league.
You loved that stat, don't you? You couldn't wait to get that stat out. It's a good stat, and he was obviously a part of that defence that was so mean for a month or so. And to be fair, I thought he played well against Brighton on the last day, and I think he has had games where he's played well. At the start, he wasn't good. He'd probably be the first to admit that. He came in at a bad time for Villa when we weren't playing well, and he made mistakes that contributed to results. There was his first game against Wolves, Forest away. He made a mistake, but to be fair, he dusted himself down and he did improve. My main gripe with Johnston coming in was the fact that I don't think he'll ever be the permanent Villa goalkeeper. I think we let a young, promising goalkeeper leave Aston Villa on loan to get a young, promising goalkeeper from Manchester United on loan, who I don't think was ever going to join permanently if he did well. I think the fact that he didn't set the world alight will mean that we'll see him again next season. That's in my opinion. I think he'll be the number one at Villa next season, but I just don't see that it will ever be a permanent move, because if we do end up getting promoted, I'm not sure he's ready to be a Premier League number one. But for the Championship, he's shown signs of improvement. Hopefully he can improve further. Then I'm reasonably happy for him to stay, but I'd rather we just solve this problem permanently.
I'll admit, Dan, now that in hindsight, I was perhaps wrong in saying it was a great sign in signing Johnston. I think that he's not set the world right, as you said, and he is out of contract in a year's time. So it'll be interesting to see how he develops over the next year, whether that's with Villa or not. You mentioned young goalkeepers and giving them a chance. There's one guy will come in very shortly that is Jed Steer, and where he is, what he's doing at the moment. But for me, Johnston, yeah, obviously had more clean sheets than anyone else this half of the year, but other than that, he hasn't done much special for me. I think his kicking ability is definitely something that we've lacked in a goalkeeper for a while. I'll give him that. But I think the idea of him commanding a penalty area, we've not had that in any of our three goalkeepers this season.
See, to me, I think his distribution isn't great. That was one of the things that they were raving about him, and like Gary Walsh and Coton were raving about. I didn't think his distribution was better than Galini's distribution. Might be me just having my Galini hat on again, but I think he did make improvements towards being commanding at the end of the season. If I'm being fair and being reasonable, he did make improvements, and there was games where he relieved pressure, and people didn't like his punching. But I'm not mega against that, because it does get the ball away. He made a couple of punches that didn't go very far, but in general, he's got rid of the ball. So I'm happy as long as that happens. There's room for improvement for him, but I think perhaps I was a bit harsh at the start, and perhaps you were being fairer. But I think in the end, we'll have to meet in the middle somewhere with that one.
Very quick mention, Dan, for Jed Steer, who for me would have been number one goalkeeper this season if it wasn't for his injury woes. Last season, one of the players of the season for Huddersfield as they evaded relegation. And this season, I'm sure he'd have been hopeful of pushing on with the Villa first team.
I don't think he would have started as number one, but I think with the way the goalkeepers have been this season, I think at some point he would have got a chance. And obviously he's got the Championship experience with Huddersfield, and he did well there by all accounts. I think hopefully he can get back from injury and be our start the season as a number two next season, and put some pressure on Johnston or whoever it may be. Because unlike Bunn, I think Jed Steer's got the chance of being a long-term number one somewhere. Whether it's at Villa, I don't know, but he was always highly rated at Norwich, and we've not really seen that much of him. I think he's been at Villa nearly 4 years. Now it's 3 or 4 years, definitely, and we've barely seen him. So the time for him to make his career happen at Villa is, some would say, gone, but he's still got a chance, and he's someone I'd be keen to see more of.
So, what have you thought about our goalkeepers this season? Let us know what you thought of the season of Pierluigi Galini, Mark Bunn, Sam Johnston and Jed Steer. Let us know in the comment section below, and get liking the video if you have enjoyed it, and subscribe to The Villa View if you are new to the channel.
If you enjoyed that video, why not watch another? Click the video choices on screen now to go and watch them in full. Be sure to subscribe to the channel by clicking our logo there on the left. Easy peasy.